Everyone, we're going to start on some painting techniques today, basically blending and learning to use some of our paints. So this is my setup that I have. I have my paints over here in this container because I can use this container to cap up my paint. I'm going to show you. I've got some water and my brushes. And I already put my palette out, and what this is the lid to this container here. Okay, I've got some scrap paper, and this is watercolor paper I'm going to be using for this. So go ahead and get your palette set up with your primary colors. So I've got red, I've got kind of like a crimson color, and I have yellow, I've got white and black, and then I've got two different blues, as you can see. So I have an ultramarine blue and a cerulean blue. So whatever blues you have, whatever reds you have, we're just going to try this and we're going to see what colors these blend up and mix to. Another thing you always want to have on handy is some rags or a lot of paper towels. I use rags. I just think that they kind of work better with what I do because I really don't wash my brush a whole lot. So let's get started on our first practice. Okay. What I would like you to do is use that watercolor paper, and we're going to make a color wheel basically. So you can start out with a very, very light triangle. We're going to paint right over this. And draw it as big as you really want it. The thing is, if you don't have a lot of paint, I don't want you to make these too big. So if you have a lot of paint, you can make them a little smaller. So we can start with that triangle and just say like we're going to do reds up here. Okay, and I'm just going to put the word red. And then we're going to go around and make sure that we get our colors, our primary colors in there. So this is yellow. And there we go. This is blue. Okay, then you have your in-between. You can have your purple. And orange over here. Okay, and then down here, there we go. Got to see if I can see this. Okay, this is your green. Okay, in the center, this is going to get brown, but we're going to do that on our own anyway. So let's get our paint, and we're going to talk a little bit about acrylic. The thing about acrylic, I usually prefer acrylic. I am not so much of a oil person. Oil paints are going to take a very long time to dry. Acrylic paints don't. One thing that you can use with acrylics is water, and I really like that. So first I'm going to use one of these flat brushes. You can use a thick round brush, a big round brush if you'd like. So whatever you have there to use. If you have a flat brush like this, this is nice to use to start with. So I'm going to wet my brush a little bit first, and I'm going to get some of my red paint. And I'm just going to paint a little bit in that section. Okay, now remember the thing with acrylics is they're going to dry much faster. Okay, they're definitely going to be drying quicker than if I used oil paints. That would actually could last a couple of weeks on here and not dry. Okay, so I'm going to have my paint, my red on there, and I want it to go pretty thick. Like, don't put this on too thin. Yeah, the thinner you get, it's not going to blend so much. So we are going to be making like a rainbow, kind of like around here. So think to yourself that we're going to have, okay, there's my red going down, and I have like a kind of thick application of red. So your next color on your color wheel that you're going to be using is yellow. You're going to get that nice orange. So from my palette, I am going to take some yellow, and I'm going to blend that right into it. Okay, so I'm just kind of taking the edge, blending that off into it. All right, so I've got a lot of red still on my brush. Okay, so we're going to start on this paper. My whole video didn't record, so I'm going to show you how to blend a couple of these colors on this paper. Okay, let's start with our yellow. Now, I want to show you something. If your paint is a little bit like this, it's kind of chunky, a little bit like this, blend it, mix it, and you know, this still can be used. It's not the greatest for something that's smooth though, but you might be able to kind of reconstitute it into something that is like a smoother paint. But you know, you definitely can use this on different styles of painting, and I do like some sort of paints that are kind of like almost harder. So let's just take some of our paint that we have and let's do some yellow first. Okay, now we're going around in that circle. So this is going to be my yellow area. Okay, and then we're going to mix that into an orange, and we can have a little bit of orange mixed over on our palette here to start with, or you can actually just mix it right on there. So I'm going to take some of this. And yellow, I mean, you need just a little bit of red to make your orange, because yellow is such a light color that you want to make sure that you're not putting too much red in it when you do that. So I would always heat on the darker color when I'm getting onto the darker color, and less, of course, of the darker color, and then you can kind of mix in a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to go, here's my orange area to start, and that's going to go right into, you know, my red. Okay, so let's get this going. With these two colors, I do have to wash off my brush. Now, I want a smooth transition from those two colors. I don't want it to be like that. Okay, so I'm going to wash and dry my brush. Okay, and I'm going to pull back. Now, first thing I can do, you can use the round brush or you can use the flat brush like this. I'm just going to blend these back and forth a little bit. Right at the seam, sort of like sew them together a little bit. Okay, and then I'll wipe my brush off. Now, it's a super light color, so I'm going to wash it a little bit, and I'm going to bring my light back into my darker portion. Okay, now the thing is, when I go back, did you see that? Okay, that's going to have, it has that darker paint on it, so I have to be very, very careful. I'm going to have to make sure that I wipe it off in between every time I brush. So this is where patience comes in. And this is what is the thing about, if you want some really smooth blending, you have to make sure you are patient, and art takes time. And that's just how it goes. So be patient with like how long it takes you to smoothly blend one color into the next. And this won't always happen when you're painting. You won't always have to do this type of technique. But this does happen sometimes. So, you know, if you want something super, super smooth, you know, you're doing a face and you want it very, very smooth, you know, these little, these time-consuming kind of brush strokes is what you're going to be kind of doing. Okay, and, you know, really, acrylic paint is about layering. You're going to start with your background first, and then you're going to start to layer on top of it. So you want to make sure that it's nice and solid. Okay, I don't want you to be using water and using it like it's watercolor. Although you can use water with your acrylic paint. That's the really cool thing about it. Acrylic paint's going to dry really fast, and I actually like that aspect of it. See, now I got some of my, I'm trying to go a little faster, and that's not working for me either, because I need to make sure that I don't have the dark color pushed back up here onto my light color. Okay, So I'm just kind of blending that in, and it's kind of blending itself. Right in there, it's kind of blending to a nice, light orange. Okay. And I'm going to get a little more yellow there because I can see that part that I got orange up there. I want that to be my true yellow area. And I know I'm using this because I know that, you might have, some of your paints might look like this, so. Okay, now this is still wet. So that's where I'm going to start to blend. And I don't want to blend, don't blend it completely into the paper. I'm going to wash my brush a little. Okay, use my rag. Wipe it off. Okay, so I'm going to take the edge of this. And nice smooth blend. And again, you can use your round brush. And I'm not pressing, I'm just kind of blending lightly. Okay, one over the other, and these two will blend together. Now I'll get this down here. A little smoother. Blend it up slightly. And since this is dry, did you see that I just picked it up and I didn't wipe it, which there are sometimes once these areas get a little drier that you can do. And I actually like to use a dry brush like this. And this one's a little wet right now, but and I can kind of blend when it's just almost just tacky. So you can do that, and it's kind of like just a little back and forth like that. I want to get this little clump off. I don't like that. Okay. Remember, this part down here is the part that's dry, so I can do this type of thing where I'm going back and forth a little bit. And don't do that until your area, your paint is, semi-dry, basically. Okay. Even right here is starting to get a little dry on me, so that's good. Okay. Take a little bit more and blend a little. Really light orange. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing with my brush. I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to wipe it and go back and forth. Add a little orange on that, darker orange on that one. Okay, so just drag it. Okay. Now this is actually becoming kind of dry right in here, and I can just use my round brush and kind of back and forth just a little bit. Now see what happens every time I go up. It's not dry enough. So every time I go up, I'm actually picking up some of the darkness and bringing it up there. Okay, a little bit down here into this darker orange. I'm going to just kind of blend a little bit in there. Yeah, let's take that off on the side, see how much paint you have on there, but I just wipe it off. And there you go. Okay, wipe it off again. wipe it off. Okay, now that's not a bad blend, but this has to go, this would go into red. So then you just continue, with your red down here, and then you blend it up into your orange and do the same thing. So, when you keep going around, you have to have that finesse, and you have to have the patience to do this. So it's going to take you a little while to get the entire ring going. So spend a little bit of time doing this. I'm just going to show you a little. Might as well do a little bit of this too. Okay. So this transition is super harsh right now. I'm going to wash my brush right off. And then just pull this down and wipe it off in between. Okay. If it's a little dry, which it is, I can do that kind of thing, but now look at what's happening. So it's not dry enough when you're starting to see it pick up so much like that. Okay, so wipe off. Yes, you can use a couple different brushes if you wanted to, but the thing is, you're still going to have to change brushes. You're still going to have to wipe it off. So, think about, like, this is the technique that you'll use a lot, is wiping off your brush. Because it's nice, actually, to leave color on there. When you're actually painting something, whatever it is, it's nice to use the color that's on your brush from the last thing that you painted. So, wiping your brush is a good thing just to kind of get yourself used to it. Now, see, this doesn't work when you're not patient, and I'm trying to do it faster just to show you a little bit. And it doesn't work. So you got to make sure that you are having patience and you're actually, thinking about blending it smooth. Okay, and I might need to wash. Well, no, I don't. Okay. So, you get the idea. I think that's what you have to do for every single change in color. So you're going to go around and do your primary colors. After I got my blue on here, this is actually going to be turning back to green, so I have to go back around and do, you'd have to go around and do your green. So eventually it's going to look like this. It's going to look like this. So you'll have this big ring. You don't have to do it exactly this big if you don't have the paint, but if you do, try it and try to get these transitions. So this is like not as smooth as I would want it necessarily to be. So some of them are a little smoother and some of them aren't. So try to get it as smooth as you possibly can from one color to the next, because it does, it matters in your painting. Okay. The next thing we're actually going to try is just to, think about, we're going to set up one of our fruit. And then we're going to do a little painting of your fruit. So you're going to do a little drawing first. And then you're going to look and see what colors, especially like with an apple that has a couple different colors, it's going to have this range. And you might have some brown into it too. In the center, I would like for you to mix some brown. Okay, so in the center of this, I'd like for you to mix some brown. So how do we make brown? We're taking our primary colors and mixing them together. when you use brown, okay, a really good combination is orange and blue. So you have to make sure that you have enough paint on there for one. And your orange cannot be like a very dark orange. You want to be careful with like your how dark you start your orange off with. Okay, so I'm just gonna get this. Don't make it too sticky. We're gonna have a little water on there. Okay, now I'm gonna take a little bit of my blue, and it's just really a little dot in there. Okay, so I kind of, if you see, I'm dotting that off on the side, and I'm gonna mix that. So really, that's all three colors together. It's how do you make orange? You use red and yellow, okay, and then you got your blue in there, and you'll make a good brown. So you don't really want a green brown. You just want like a neutral kind of brown. So, you know, when you start to make it, you can make a couple different shades of the brown. So go ahead and put some brown down, which that one looks kind of yellowy brown. And then see what you can do with it. You've got your white, you've got your black on your palette as well. So, you know, this is kind of like, you could almost use up the rest of your paint just to kind of mix this type of, these browns. So brown is something really good for in underpainting even. So if I was going to start my apple that I just drew over there, I might start with the color that I'm using right now and have it be an underpainting. It's like what's going to be right under all of my color. Okay, I can try to take a little bit of this crimson. See what it makes, because this is what you're going to be doing. And, you know, you don't have to, you know, you want to play around with it a little bit. You don't have to guess as you're going, you know, try it first. Try it here. And then see if it works. I gotta have a little touch of water to this because it's getting a little dry. So that was with some of my crimson in there. You can see like that's a different shade of brown. Okay, you could add the ultramarine blue. Some of my yellow. I'm gonna have a little more water mix in my palette. So that's starting to go. If you're seeing green, you got to add a little bit of red. Okay, it's the same type of thing. If you're seeing it too orange, you add a little more blue. Okay, if you're kind of seeing purpley, then a little more yellow. See those different browns that you can make. Okay. Try a little bit of black with it. Okay. There I go. And try a little bit of white. And you'll get like more of a tannish. You gotta get a clean brush for this one. Gonna mix up a little bit of brown with some of my white. Okay, that's pretty good brown right there. I don't know if you can see that though, but it is a pretty good brown. So I'm going to take a little bit of white and mix that with it. And I get this nice kind of creamy. Showing green a little bit because of the green that's in my brush. So I'm gonna have to mix it a little bit more. Now what happens is if you push your brush like this, you're gonna have more color that's in your brush. So you gotta make sure it's nice and clean, you know, and you have, if you want just that true color, you wanna make sure that you have that color being mixed, if that makes sense. Because you can mix with the tip of your brush is what I'm saying, and all this stuff is not actually mixing in with it. Okay. So there's some neutrals anyway. Some. Okay. Okay. So we're going to mix black and white right here. And you can get several different grays. So this is definitely a darker black, you know, definitely a darker gray. And I'm sorry, one more thing. So if you want a light gray, I mean, you know, you got to use a very little black. Okay, one more thing I want to show you before I let you go. I just want to get this off with my brush and not have it all go in my water. So I'm just going to paint some of that white there. Okay, I am going to show you what black and yellow does. So you're going to use your yellow. Mine's kind of lumpy here. Get it so you can mix it, because I know some of yours might be like that. And we're going to do a little bit of black in there. Okay, so I'm going to touch the black. Ooh. So this is kind of a weird thing that happens, and I might have put a little too much black in it, but you can kind of see what you're gonna be able to see when. So this is yellow and black. It makes like a green. So this is how we get like that sage green. Isn't that weird? Yeah, it becomes like a little more of a neutral green. So just yellow and black. So try that and see if you can get that neutral kind of green in there. Okay? All right, people. Happy painting.